Let's cross live now to our reporter Abby Dinham in Melbourne. Good evening, Abby. The Premier says he's aiming for a COVID normal Christmas.
Well, that's the goal, Janice. It's hoped within just the next couple of weeks we could be looking at just single-digit increases in our case numbers here in Victoria. And as a result of that, we're looking to move into the next phase around mid-October now, rather than the scheduled end of October. The Premier said we're taking what he's calling a common sense approach to rolling back restrictions now that will be based on the data. But as it stands, we are still technically under lockdown measures, with restrictions on our travel between metropolitan and regional Victoria, as well as that 5K limit around shopping and exercising close to home.
Far from business as usual, but for the first time in months, there's a light on the horizon. Daniel Andrews with the announcement Melbourne residents have been waiting almost 12 weeks to hear.
Today we're going to take some safe and steady steps. It's not everything that Victorians would want.
The first step, Melbourne's curfew lifted from 5 tomorrow morning. All primary school and some senior students will return to classes on October the 12th. From tomorrow, all children can return to childcare. 5 people from 2 households can gather outside. Shopping limits will be lifted. Routine dental can resume, and weddings and faith gatherings can take place outdoors with a limit of 5 people. But the increased freedom comes at a price. New $5,000 fines introduced for those planning an unlawful get-together to celebrate.
This is a strategy that is designed to get us to a COVID normal Christmas.
127,000 people are also heading back to work, 30,000 more than expected, with employee reduction measures to be lifted in places like supermarkets and distribution centres.
It's a good start, and certainly we'd hope now is to bring the whole timeline forward.
Today's announcement of a relaxation of restrictions goes further than what was flagged at the beginning of September. Many have welcomed the faster track to freedom, but for some, it's not fast enough.
We expect ease more restriction.
I really hope that restrictions on work continue to lift.
My expectations were quite low.
Victorians were really looking for a path out of lockdown, and instead all they got from Daniel Andrews was a huge letdown.
Disappointment rife across the hard-hit hospitality industry.
Our industry is bleeding, and really there was no hope given.
Frustration in the education sector too. Some experts say all students should return to school at the beginning of term 4 for the sake of their mental health.
These kids that have been incredibly disconnected from their peers and from learning and from having that sense of social connection.
Victoria's on track to take its next step out of lockdown in mid-October, a week earlier than expected. The Premier confirming the road ahead will now be determined by the data and not the dates.
And Abby, senior figures in the federal government have also responded tonight. What's been their reaction to the latest developments there in Victoria?
Well, a joint release has been put out by Canberra questioning the speed at which Victoria is moving. It says, "We note that at similar case levels, New South Wales was fundamentally open while remaining COVID safe due to a world-class contact tracing facility, and that we would support Victoria in reviewing the trigger of 5 and 0 cases with regards to the third and last steps." But Janice, I'm not sure that's something that the Premier would be up for. One restriction in particular actually increased today, and that's around face masks. Some people have been opting to use face shields or bandanas instead, but from next week that will begin phasing out.